Okay, guys. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Manning, and I'm one of the lecturers down in the National Maritime College of Ireland, or we call it the NMCI. So I'd like to begin by welcoming you here this evening to tonight's CAO Information Night. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we'll run through, which will provide an awful lot of information to you on the courses we provide. Okay, the chat is going to be monitored. So if you have any questions, please put them in there and we'll answer any questions at the end of the presentation. We also have an email and we can email on further information if needs be, if we don't have the answer for you tonight. So tonight I'm joined by Ian Black, who's the course coordinator for the BEng in Marine Electrotechnology, by Donald Keane, the first year coordinator for Nautical Science, Annette Collin, who is our Maritime Liaison Officer and who looks after the sea placement. We have Lillian Griffin from MTU the Admissions Office, and Irina Keane, who is from the NMCI Admissions Office. We're also joined by two current students, David Garland and Dara Flanagan-Carty. So we have a great field of expertise with us tonight, so surely we'll be able to answer any of your questions. So I suppose what tonight is about is gone are the days when a career was only going to sea. Now we see a career at sea is a stepping stone or a transitional point for people to actually move into the maritime area and continue working in the area. So we can see there on the first slide, who are we and where are we? And I suppose the important thing for us tonight is that the National Maritime College of Ireland, its location, it's a constituent college. That means that it's part of Munster Technological University, and the campus itself is in Ringaskiddy. So that's about a 24-mile kilometre from the Bishopstown campus. So just be aware that people think it's not in Bishopstown, it's a separate standalone campus that's there. Okay, it is the only third level institute in the country that deals with maritime training and education. So it's in Cork. It's in a beautifully located next to the harbour. With some fantastic views. We see there it's non-military. What do we mean by that? We have a partnership with the Irish Naval Service. The Irish Naval Service train all their personnel in the NMCI in non-military courses. So the Naval Service have to train their people how to drive ships, how to repair their ships, etc. And they come on the same courses that we run in the NMCI for people that will work on commercial ships. If you want to train in Ireland and you want to work on ships, this is the place for you. So this is where we do hold a number of courses, and this is where we do professional courses also if you want to work at sea. Also, there's work placement on ships. This is where we will try and assist you to get placement on ships. And just be aware, a lot of people come down to us and they think, you know, they're going to be studying biology or they'll be looking at animals that live in the sea, etc. We don't do any of that. We're purely looking at shipping and what's involved with shipping and the training that people need to actually work on board a ship. Okay, so we move on there, Donald, please. So what is the shipping industry? Just to kind of get a background idea, we can see there's over 50,000 ships trading internationally, and you can see the trading routes on the picture that's on screen. There's over 1.25 million seafarers employed worldwide. They're of high value assets. So what we mean by that is like the cost of ships is absolutely huge. So we can see Oasis of the Sea cost 1.4 billion. So that's a cruise ship. And we see there ships carrying 90% of the world's trade. So everything, probably as we're sitting on the seats at home that we're watching tonight, the computers we're looking at, the clothes we're wearing, has all been brought here by container on a ship from somewhere else in the world. So again, what type of ships are we thinking about? So again, we look here, this is kind of an oil tanker, a gas carrier, a chemical tanker. So they're the things that carry oil. We've got bulk cargo ships, so they carry grain, coal, timber. We've got container ships, so they're the things that are carrying our clothes, refrigerated items, etc. This is a car carrier, so if any of you are familiar with being down either in Port of Dublin or the Port of Cork, you'll see these ships coming in and are carrying in the brand new cars that we're all driving around in. We obviously have passenger ships, so that's our cruise ships or ferries that come in and out of the country. And then we have specialised vessels like this one, which is a high lift ship which came into Cork recently and delivered the two naval vessels into Cork Harbour. So what do we offer? So maritime studies, the programs that we offer in the NMCI is a marine engineering qualification. As we see there, it's broken down into the 4 years. So if we look at it, it's 4 years in total. Year 1 and year 2, or 2 years, are in college. 1 year is in work placement, is on board a ship, and 1 year is back in college. The next course we offer is a BEng in marine electrotechnology. Again, it's a 4 years. There's 2 years in college, again, a year at sea in work placement, and then 1 year in college. Again, the next course is a BSc in Nautical Science. So Nautical Science is to do with the actual driving of ships, the operation of ships, the captains that are on board ships. That's a 3.5 years. First year is in college. There's a year and a half at sea or in work placement, and then there is a further year in college. And if you want to get a level 8 or an honours degree in Nautical Science, there's a 1 year top up. So I'll run through what do we actually look at in marine engineering. So as I said, year 1 is based in college, year 2 is based in college, year 3 is at sea work placement. So the work placement side, you have to do 9 months sea time. So generally what tends to happen is the 9 months is broken down into 4.5 months and 4.5 months. So you do 2 trips, depending on who you're employed with at that period of time. When you come back from your sea placement, you come back to college for a 4th year to finish out your qualification. So what does a marine engineer do? So again, they have an awful lot of responsibility for the machinery and the plant and the electrical side on board. So as we can see there, they talk about main propulsion. What do we mean by that? We talk about the main engines, the engines that drive the ships. So they look after that. They look after the auxiliary machinery. So that could be your generators, pumps, etc. AC, so the electrical power distribution. So obviously on a ship, we're our own power station. We generate our own electricity. That goes to an electrical switchboard, and then it's distributed around the ship. So they look after that. Electronics. So everything is electronic nowadays on board. So you have to have a good understanding of electronics, electrical plant, and cargo pumps. So if you're on board an oil tanker, you've got very large cargo pumps on board, and the maintenance of those pumps come under the remit of a marine engineer. The rank structure on board the ship. So when you come out of college and you qualify, you will come out with 2 things. You will come out with your academic qualification from MTU, and you will hopefully get your certificate of competency. And that is equivalent to like a driving license that will allow you work on board ships internationally. So the first part of your journey is that you become a junior engineer on board the ship, and you can be a junior, a 4th, a 3rd engineer, and that's kind of at the engineering officer of the watch level, so the EOOW. If you come back to college and do another stint in college, a 12-week course, you can become a 2nd engineer. You get your 2nd engineering ticket, and that allows you sail at a higher rank on board different ships. And then you can come back again and do another 6-week course, and you get your chief engineer's ticket. So the structure on board the ship from the engineering department is you have the chief engineer as the top, his right-hand person is the 2nd engineer, and then you have a 3rd engineer, a 4th engineer, or a junior engineer, and then a cadet. So what does first year look like? So the college term is broken down into 2 semesters. Semester 1 is 13 weeks. Semester 2 is 13 weeks. And within that, you do 6 modules in each semester. So we can see on the left-hand side, semester 1 is a common module. It's called the CIT module, or the Creativity, Innovation and Teamwork module. Physics, mechanics, mechanical workshop, technical maths, and technical drawing. So you do 6 subjects over that 13 weeks. You do your set of exams, and then semester 2 then runs from January to May, and then you're doing another set of modules or a set of topics again. As we can see there, mechanics from semester 1 runs into mechanics 2. We can see technical maths in first year semester 1 is also in semester 2. We can see technical drawing is in semester 1 and it's semester 2. So a lot of subjects follow on from each other throughout the year. So now I'm going to hand you over to Ian, and Ian is the first year coordinator for the BEng in Marine Electrotechnology.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, everyone. So marine electrotechnology degree, it's very much the same structure as the marine engineering in that there's 2 years in college, a year at sea, and then you come back in the final year for college. Can we go on to the next slide there? So I suppose to distinguish between marine engineers and electrotechnical officers, the electrotechnical officer is part of the engineering staff on board, but it will be on more specialist ships. So you'll be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all electronic equipment on board the ship. It's usually complex power management systems. So you're thinking large cruise ships or specialized vessels or large deep sea tankers. Electrical power generation distribution, same as the engineers, but again, it might be a larger system or dynamic positioning. Navigation and communications equipment, and instrumentation, automation, and control systems. So very specialized, a lot of electronics, a lot of computer networking, and a lot of control systems. First year is the same as first year in marine engineering. So I said we'd have a look at second year instead. So you see the subjects become a bit more specialized. So digital systems for marine is just digital electronics, electronics and electrical principles, marine analog electronics. Marine automation is to do with PLCs and control systems. Marine diagnostics is starter systems, cabling, and control systems. And again, you share some of the modules with the engineers because in the end, ETOs and engineers will end up in the same department on board. So you'll share mathematics with them. Marine communications is just global maritime distress and safety systems. Marine control engineering and marine instrumentation. Instrumentation and control are very big subjects for both the engineers and the ETOs. Marine power systems is to look in depth into power generation and power distribution and protection systems as well. And again, shared mathematics. And I'll hand you to Donald there.
Thanks, Ian. So I'm the coordinator for Nautical Science, which will be the deck officer route that we teach here in the college. So similar to engineering and electrotech, I suppose you come into college in first year. The difference is for the Nautical Science or deck students, they'll head away to sea for their second year. So just 1 year of college under their belts, off they go to sea. We say year 2 here on this slide, but really it's a year and a half. So the deck officers have to get a little bit more work experience. They need to do 12 months sea time. So usually you do a 3 or 4 month trip, then come home for a month, head back out for another 3 or 4 month trip. So you've got a kind of 18-month window to get that 12 months work experience in, and then you're going to come back to college for your third year. So what does a deck officer do on a ship? Well, in broad strokes, they look after the navigation. So this was keeping the ship afloat, making it go where you want it to go. And the cargo side of things. So looking after putting the cargo on, taking the cargo off, make sure we don't put too much on, make sure we don't tip the ship over. So that's kind of vessel stability. Then we look after the running of the deck operations as well. So things like anchoring the ship, mooring the ship when you come into port, and generally the safety on board and say passenger safety if you're on a passenger ship. So it's quite a varied set of responsibilities for a deck officer. The kind of career progression, again, when you graduate from MTU, from the college, you get your degree from MTU, so it's a level 7 at this stage, and you'll also have your COC or your license to be a deck officer. So you'll be an officer of the watch, that'll either be a third officer or a second officer. It's the same qualification. Once you've got a bit more work experience, so again, you're looking at 12 months sea time, then you're eligible to come back to the college for another year or 2 semesters in college when you get your level 8 degree and you get your next COC. So that would be the chief officer COC. So then you're getting into management level on the ship. Again, if you get some more sea time, so you'll need another 24 months sea time. At that point, you're able to come back and sit your exams for the master's license. So that's your ticket or your license to be a ship's captain. There's no more college time required for that. It's just get the work experience in and come back and sit the examinations with the Department of Transport. So what sort of subjects are you going to be doing? We've got this common module again, CIT, that we share with the engineers, and actually every student in MTU has to do that module. Then in the first semester, we're looking at chart work. So that's learning about the navigation. Chart is kind of a nautical word for map, really. So how to read the maps, how to use them. General ship knowledge is all about cargo and the different machinery and equipment you'll be using on board, like the anchors and mooring lines, how to do your rope work, that kind of stuff. Bridge watchkeeping then, how do you keep a safe watch? That's a watch is the shift on a ship, basically. So when you're driving a ship from A to B, don't hit other ships, don't hit islands, that kind of thing. Then there is going to be a bit of maths and kind of science stuff as well. So technical maths, and there's going to be a bit of navigation and meteorology. Then the second semester, we've got some applied science, and again, there's applied maths as well. So there is a little bit of maths and science to it. We've got electronic navigation aids. That's looking at your GPS, your radar, how those kind of things work. Your seamanship, that's how to go about your job safely, really, shipboard safety, and a little bit of management. So that's just a first year at a glance. Now, as Dan was saying earlier, it's not necessarily a career for life anymore. Very few of our graduates are going to spend 30 or 40 years at sea and retire from a ship-going role. So usually they're going to transition ashore at some point. And like realistically, a lot of people now are looking at maybe 10 or 15 years spending at sea, and then they're going to move on to the next stage in their career. So there's lots of options out there, really. So for someone from Nautical Science or the deck department, some of the options open to you would be to get into chartering, which is kind of looking at hiring of ships for cargoes and stuff like that. To be a harbour master or a pilot, so that's the people working around the harbour, bringing the ships in and out. Be a lecturer like us here in the college. You can also get into marine law or marine insurance, surveying, or even the Coast Guard. So there's a great experience in, I suppose, general management, and also there's a great technical expertise that's built up in the shipping industry. So that's really sought after ashore. And the same thing goes for the engineers or the ETOs. Now they'll have a different specialization, but very much sought after as well. So from the engineering side, you could be looking at becoming a surveyor of ships. That's making sure they're built up to the correct standards. You could be a superintendent. That's someone who works for a shipping company and will manage a number of ships to make sure they're being run safely and correctly. Again, you can get into insurance surveying. The engineers are working on large generators, large pumps, large AC units. It's kind of the same stuff that you get in a lot of the big factories or even big hotels and office blocks and stuff around the place. So that's very much a transferable skill ashore. And I'm led to believe that our engineers are quite sought after as well, because when you're at sea, you can't call for help. You got to do everything yourself, essentially. So the marine engineers have a really wide range of skills that they've had to develop, and that's quite sought after when they come ashore. So say chemical plants, auditing, and lecturing. So lots of options out there. Don't think of it when you're going to sea now at 18 or 20 that you're going to be there for 40 years. There's definitely lots of options to come ashore at some point. A little look at the CAO. Now, look, you might be aware already if you've done a little bit of research on this, but just looking at the points that have been out there for the last 2 years for our courses and how many points on offer. So for the engineering, there's 40 places. In the last 2 years, it was 223 points. Electrotech, there's 20 spots on it. It was 233 last year. And Nautical Science, there's 48 places and 241 points last year. Just a point to make, I know the points seem quite low for this course. It's to do with supply and demand. And basically this course really isn't for everyone. It's a bit of a vocation. You want to be into seafaring, I suppose. So it's not for everyone. We're not going to have thousands of applicants from all across the country. So because it's quite a niche course, the points we see here are basically the points that the last applicant who got onto the course had. So you'll find that the average or the median points is actually quite a bit higher. So you are getting people on this course with 400 and 500 points easily. So the average we've had over the last year or two there, you see it's up between 350 and 400. So just because this is a low points course doesn't mean that it's a low quality course or that you don't need to have your head screwed on to do it. Some of the other requirements say it's not your average college course. You're going to have to get a Seafarer's discharge book. Now what a discharge book is, that's a record of your sea time. So it's saying when you go away to sea as a cadet for a deck officer, you'll need 12 months sea time. Engine and electrotech, it's 9 months. So this is an official document, kind of like a passport. It's issued by the Department of Transport, and that records your training and your sea time. So Irish citizens will get one from the Irish Department of Transport. If you're not an Irish citizen, you will have to get one from your own country of citizenship. So that's something that you might have to look into. I know we have a couple of Polish citizen in the class this year, so they've been in contact with their government back home. So it's something that can be done, but just something to bear in mind, something you might want to look into a little bit yourselves in the meantime. With the C phase training, any international students, they have to secure their own training berths. Anyone from Europe, the college will source a training berth for you. There is funding for that, and there's a grant that gets paid as well, but that's only, say, for European students. So if you are an international student, you'll have to find your own training berths before you can get a place in the college. So it's definitely get in touch with the admin office about that if you are an international student. We don't guarantee sponsorship. Now, there's a difference between getting a sponsored C placement and just getting a berth. So we'll arrange C time, so we get everyone to C so they can get their C time in. Some cadets will be sponsored. What that means is they'll be paid by the companies that they're working with when they're on the ships. And depending on the package on offer, I suppose, some of the students will then continue to stay on payroll when they come back to college for their final year, and some of the companies will pay their college fees, pay for their books, that kind of thing. So that's what sponsorship is. Now, it depends from year to year how many students get sponsored. I think this year we're looking at somewhere around 75 or 80% of the students have been sponsored. So it's quite a lot, not all of them, but it is a very important part of it, because it means when you're away in your second year, you're earning money. That's stuff you can save up to help you get through third year. And indeed, if you're lucky, you might continue to be paid when you're in third year. So that's a real bonus for us there. Vaccinations, you will have to get a multitude of vaccinations before you go to sea. There's international requirements for things like yellow fever. As well as that, the vast majority of shipping companies insist that their staff have COVID vaccinations. The reason for that is for the most part, there aren't doctors on the ships. The person who has to play doctor is probably the captain or the chief mate. They have a bit of medical training. They're not doctors, so they want to minimize the risks. So there'll be vaccinations for lots of things. So if you do have, if you're not a fan of vaccines, bear that in mind. Possibly not the career for you, but it's standard. It's been like this for years. No different than if you're going traveling to exotic parts of the world, you'd have to get different vaccinations for when you go there. There's a medical and eyesight requirements as well. So for anyone to work on a ship, they have to pass these requirements. We do ask that when you get an offer of a place on the course, at that point, look into getting the medical done. The reason for that is, although you don't need it till you go on the ship, we like people to get the medical and eyesight exam done straight away. So what we don't want is in 9 months or 18 months time, it cropping up that someone has a medical condition that precludes them from going to sea, or they've got an eyesight issue that won't allow them to go to sea. So we get it done before you start college, essentially. So if the offers come out, and it's probably end of August or early September, I guess, as soon as you get an offer, that's the time to go and arrange the medical. Now, you can't just go to your GP to get these medicals done. They're official Department of Transport Seafarers medicals. So there is a list of approved doctors, which can be found on the Department of Transport's website. So it's seafarers.ie is the website. Before you get a medical, you have to register for a Seafarer information system, get a number. So you'll have an identity number, and that'll be with you throughout your career. Then you go to one of these approved doctors. They're dotted around the country, and you get the medical done. It's a fairly straightforward medical. It's not a complicated one. So if you're reasonably fit and healthy, you'll be fine. There are eyesight requirements, and they are different for deck or engine crew. So it's important when you are getting your medical done, one of the lines on the form is for career, basically what department you're in. Make sure the doctor doesn't just write student, they have to write down deck student or engine student or something like that. So we have to know which department standard you've done the exam for. It happens every year. Someone comes in with it just says student, and then we don't know which test they've done, basically. So make sure when the doctor is filling it out that you say, are you going for deck, are you going for engine, or are you going for electrical? I think that's it about the medicals. Just one or two other small things. So Dan said they're very valuable assets. You're going to be in charge of them once you qualify. You'll be in charge of them for 8 hours a day. You'll be the one with your hands on the wheel, or you'll be the one down in the engine room keeping everything ticking along. So industry-wide, there's just zero tolerance for drug and alcohol abuse. So you can expect to have drug tests throughout your career and throughout your cadetship. Same with alcohol. It depends from company to company. Some allow a small amount of alcohol on board, but never during working hours. So just bear that in mind. You will be subject to kind of routine drug and alcohol tests when you're working, and it's the quickest way to end your career is to fail one of those. Now, what sort of people would this kind of job be for? So someone who's resilient. It is a tough life. It can be a little bit isolating. Sometimes you're far away from home for long periods of time, but it's very rewarding all the same. You can provide quite a practical job. So if you enjoy working with your hands, if you enjoy being outdoors, certainly for the deck side, maybe engineers not so much. But someone who's kind of good as a team, because it gets a really tight-knit community on board a ship. So if you enjoy that kind of environment, would say you do have to be able to get stuff done by yourself. And someone who enjoys responsibility and is motivated. You're going to be out there very much driving your own career and pushing yourself. So if that sounds like things you'd enjoy, this might be a career for you. Bear in mind, ships are out of sight, off beyond the horizon. Things like Wi-Fi, TV, it's very limited. There is Wi-Fi on board. It is getting better all the time. But it's nothing like it is ashore. So do be prepared to be cut off from your YouTubes and your Instagrams and TikToks. You'll probably be able to send text messages, but you're probably not going to be video calling and that kind of thing. So not for everyone, but definitely a rewarding career if it is for you. What can you expect out of it then as well? So at an early age, you'll have a lot of responsibility. So I suppose if you're coming into college here at 18 or 19, you're going to be qualified at 22 years of age, maybe. So for 8 hours of the day, you're going to be sole person in charge of these monster ships all over the world. So great responsibility, and there's a great satisfaction that comes out of that as well. Say, be it when you're in the engine room or up on the bridge. Like, people can barely afford to get car insurance at that age. But here you are getting a well-paid job driving these great ships. It's an international qualification. So, okay, you'll have your degree from MTU, but this COC, or your Certificate of Competency, that's an international qualification which allows you to work on ships all over the world. So it travels very well. You will have your degree as well, which is great when you want to come ashore. The salaries are very good. If you play your cards right, you will be exempt from paying tax as well. So what might look like a pretty good salary becomes an excellent salary when it turns out you don't have to pay tax on it as well. Generally, the class sizes are quite small in the college, which is nice. The kind of atmosphere and the interaction with the staff, with the lecturers, it's nearly more akin to a school sometimes, I find. So, myself, my secondary school was bigger than the college here, which made for an interesting transition. But it means there's a great rapport between the staff and the students, which is very helpful as well. I think that's nearly it. So if Dan or Ian have anything else to add, if not, we might kind of open it up to the floor for any questions.
Yeah, we just have just on the chat there. I think Sabina was just asking about when to get a medical done, and you've kind of answered that. You just wait for your offer, and once you've got your offer, then it's getting on to seafarers.ie and follow the procedure there. So, but Irina has put up a link to that on the chat there if anyone is interested there. Just what are the steps that you need for the medical. How many mature student places will be offered? Again, it's dependent, I guess, on how many offers we get come in. Normally, every year we do take a number of mature students on all courses, on the engineering, on the deck, and on the ETO side as well. So it's very dependent on actually how many applications we get. So it's very dependent on that. Is a medical and sea survival course required for going onto a ship? And if so, will we be able to do them in the NMCI, or will we have to book them ourselves? So that's from Cormac. So just regarding the medical, as we said, once you get you've been told you've been put on the course, you apply for the medical. The medical will cost you €150. It's a specialised medical, and you have to go to the set list of doctors that are on the Department of Transport website. The other one you've asked is the sea survival course. As part of your college course, you'll complete that before you go to sea as well. Okay, so that'll be part of your course.
Just to jump in on that, Dan. So there's a couple of courses you'll have to do. There's firefighting, there's sea survival. You'll do things like looking after the lifeboats as well. And for the deck guys, there's first aid and kind of medical care courses as you go on up the way. They're included in the fees if you want for the course. So you're actually getting a couple of €1,000 worth of training courses and certificates kind of thrown in for free almost. So from that sense, it's a lot of bang for your buck when you do the course here. And those certificates go with you then throughout your career. So you have them with you at that point.
Okay, so we have another question here from Patrick. At what stage would you go for your chief engineers in your career? So again, Patrick, it's very kind of set out. You will go to college for your 4 years. You will come out with your officer of the watch. You then have to complete 12 months sea time to get more sea experience. So that 12-month sea time you can't do in a year, because you'll probably do 4 months at sea. You'll take a holiday every month or two. You'll do another 4 months at sea, take another holiday, take 4 months at sea. So that will take you maybe a year and a half or 2 years to get your sea time up. You come back and do your second engineer's ticket, and that's taking you a 12-week course. And then you need another 12 months sea time to be eligible to come on to the chief engineer's ticket or course. So you're realistically probably looking at it, probably take you six years to get your chief engineer's ticket, and that's allowing yourself to have a break between that also. Okay. How many people apply on average? Is there a lot of competition for marine engineering? So as we said there a while ago, we have 40 places for marine engineers. I think this year when we took it on, there was about 38, I think 38 or 39, and there was 10 ETOs came in. So there was a shortfall, and generally we see every year some people transfer across. We might have an ETO transfer across into the engineering, or we might have an engineer might transfer across into the ETO side of it. Where we see a little bit of competition is when people are actually wanting to get sponsored by a company, as Donald was talking about. So there would be interviews held by the companies, and that's where we see real competition. People are kind of obviously keen to get sponsorship on that. What would you say the school would be a safe environment for a transgender student? Yeah, the answer is yes to that. Obviously, there's some challenges with that, and the challenges would be documentation going forward when you're working at sea. Okay, so just be wary of that you could run into some issues with that. If I decide to defer for a year after being offered a place, do I need to do medicals on offer or the following year? So the reason we ask you to do the medicals is because we don't want you coming to college and maybe so from an engineering point of view, you don't go to sea till year 3. So you'll have 2 years at sea or 2 years in college, and you decide I better go get my medical, and you find that you can't pass the medical. You're after wasting 2 years in college, and you won't be able to go to sea. So really, once you get offered your place, the medical is informing you that you will pass the medical, and that's the benefit, that you won't have wasted time in college and wasted your career chances, that the career at sea wasn't for you.
I'll jump in there. So is the Ferrybank student accommodation still available? I think maybe you mean Ferryview. That used to be student accommodation here. No, there's no formal student accommodation in the kind of Ringaskiddy area. Most people rent private houses in and around, so Carrigaline, Crosshaven, Ringaskiddy. Any student accommodation is in the city centre, and it's a bus ride out to Ringaskiddy. The bus is about 40 minutes, I think, from the city centre out to Ringaskiddy. Does the COC allow me to operate domestic passenger vessels here? The great thing with our COCs is they will be unlimited. So basically means if it floats, you can do your job on it. So yeah, they'll definitely cover you for domestic vessels as well. How many mature applicants? I'm not sure of the numbers. We haven't taken a close look at them yet. But say it just depends on. Yeah,
just on the engineering side, we took in, I think, two mature applicants, And again,
That was for the year just gone, though, was it?
just the year that's gone as well. Like,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so the applicants would come in. We will assess the applicants to see if they're suitable, etc., to see what their background is as well on it. So that's generally the situation regarding mature applicants. Do most students get employment in the industry after the course, or do they find it difficult to get a job? So,
do you want me to jump in there on that one, Dan? Yeah, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut across you there. I suppose just I briefly answer that one. We have, it is competitive, yes, but we have a very successful figure of cadets getting guaranteed employment post-qualification. Just to pare that one back just a little bit for context purposes there. Dan and both Donal touched upon that one earlier where we mentioned the CFAs element. A lot of the CFAs training agreements that are in place are sponsored contracts, sponsored C10 training agreements, which would mean that you would be paid a salary for up to a period of 18 months on the deck side, and from anywhere from between 9 and 12 months on the engineering side, depending on the window of sea time that you have. Again, a lot of the sponsored arrangements we have with our companies can allow for payment through to your final year, where they'll pay on a monthly basis. And then some other companies decide to not offer that in the third academic year, but then post-qualification, after you secure your COC and you're back on board then as a junior or as a third officer, for example, the opportunity then to earn a good salary increases exponentially. Just to give an idea of average salaries as well, and I mentioned this to Dan and Donal earlier that I'll touch upon it briefly, it varies from the cruise to the tankers to the box carrier to the roll pack sectors. It varies, but if someone wanted an average figure for a deck officer post qualification, you could be looking anywhere between 38,000 to 44,000. But again, that is very company specific. Long-winded, but I hope that answers the question.
Those salaries would be the day you step out of college. Obviously, they go way up as you progress through your career. I think do people get employed once they qualify? Kind of anecdotally, to be honest, I've never heard of anyone who wanted to continue working in the industry being unable to find employment. So for those that want it, there's essentially 100% employment with it, I think. What will the final year in nautical science be like? It's actually a really interesting year. It's good fun. It's split into 2 semesters. One is the academic semester, so you'll do to a higher level things like navigation, the ship stability, that kind of stuff. That's 1 semester. And the second semester we call the short course semester. So then you're doing things like very much practical navigation stuff, using our simulators, using our electronic navigation system laboratories. We're doing firefighting, we're doing radio operation, we're doing a week of a seamanship course, a week of a safety officer course. So it's all practical courses for the other semester. So that tends to be quite enjoyable. I think Dave and Dara are here. They're currently in 3rd year at the moment. So maybe if they want to just have a quick word on that.
Yeah, it's a very busy year and it's a lot of work in it, but it is like the short courses at the second semester is pretty good.
Yeah, we're currently in the short courses at the moment, and we'll be doing our firefighting next week and everything. Yeah, it's all a bit of fun anyway. Even in 1st year, the firefighting and a few other bits, it's great fun.
Okay, so not your average college course, sitting in a lecture hall for 3 years.
Well, no, but there's still a lot of lectures, but it's it's balanced out, I think. Okay,
cheers, lads. Next, how many mature place will be offered? Sorry, that's been answered. 15.
What's the is the maths on the course very difficult, and how do students tend to get on? So there is a good bit of maths quantity in both the deck side, the ETO, and the engineering side, because at the end of the day, they're science subjects and they're engineering subjects. Again, we would have a lot of people that would have passed maths from the leaving cert coming into it. I mean, if you put your head down, you work away, you'll get through it. The lecturers are quite good if you want to. If you're looking for extra assistance and you just need to talk to them. So I mean, it's not some people find it difficult, but I mean, look, it's not a hill that you can't climb. And again, we can put some things in place. We've got a lot of additional supports through our main campus and MTU that can assist students as well with maths and other subjects like that.
Is there an increase in how ETOs are sought after in recent years? Maybe one for Ian, but certainly they weren't a thing about 10 or 15 years ago. So they very much, it is becoming more and more electronics orientated on ships. The systems are getting more and more electronically controlled. So I think, yeah, it is a growing side of the industry.
Yeah, there tends to be more and more looked for, especially since COVID. Things have kind of ramped up a bit for the ETOs.
Thanks, Ian. So the next one, is the course viable? Is the course viable for someone living far from campus? Look, the answer to that is yes. I suppose, look, the housing crisis and that kind of thing has had an effect on people. We would have students traveling, you know, from Waterford. I certainly, there's one chap in my first year class, he's traveling daily from Waterford and things like that. The bus routes are slow to get where we are because of just the location of the campus, but people do travel some distances to get to us as well.
I think the timetable is pretty full though. It's pretty much Monday to Friday. You'll need to be in college. There's a couple of half days here and there, but it is attendance 5 days a week. And because you're going for the professional qualification as well, the Department of Transport, their rules mandate that you have to attend the college. So it's not like going up and doing arts in UCC and you show up in the first week and then you show up for the exam and you pass the exam, great. But here you do have to attend, and that's checked by the Department of Transport. So that's just something to bear in mind. You won't be able to do the course if you're not able to get to the college every day.
So the next one there is, how strict is the eyesight requirement? Would it be okay to have prescription glasses for certain things? So there again, if you look onto the seafarers.ie website, it outlines the eyesight requirement. And what I would suggest is that maybe if you had, you know, what your eyesight quality is and the requirement, and if you said it to someone in Specsavers, say, look, can you look at that? Do I meet that requirement? That'd kind of give you an indication. I mean, we can't say, because we're obviously not optometrists to know what the eyesight is, but just be wary of it, that there are certain eyesight requirements that are there, and they're laid out in that seafarers.ie website.
But as such, it's fine. You are allowed to have glasses. I think off the top of my head, I used to wear glasses myself. But it was that without your glasses, I think you had to be able to see with one eye down to the 5th line on the card, I think is the requirement. But you also have to be able to see it all with the glasses. And if you require glasses, you have to bring a second pair with you to see for when you stand on the first pair or something. Obviously, you can't nip down to the Specsavers to get a new one. So we do have students with glasses, but like Dan said, do double check. It's probably a lot cheaper to check it with Specsavers than paying 150 for the medical. So it's something you can check first.
What would the most common type of ship berth secured by students during placement? Maybe Annette might.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's actually an interesting question, a very good one. It's flipped actually in recent years. Only in 2017-18, we had about 60% representation there from the tanker side for sponsored contracts across deck, engine and electrotechnical. That's now flipped and it's more 60 to 65% cruise, about 30% tanker, and the last 5 to 10% are the ancillary miscellaneous, covering container, research vessel, and RoPax. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll be 42 starting the course, hoping to work on cruise ships. A bit worried about being too old to start the course and getting employed by a cruise company after the course. Yeah, so look, you're probably on the older end of the scale of student that we would see. However, what we are seeing with companies is that they actually like mature students as well, because you're bringing a bit of maturity to the job. You're probably a little bit more focused on the career that you're wanting to go into, etc., etc. You know, look,
I can jump in there as well, Dan, just to complement what you're saying there. I actually recently had a call with a prospective candidate onto the course, and that particular lady was very interested in coming in, also in her 40s, and had reared her family. And of course, I spoke with a company just to gauge interest in that, and especially on the cruise side, there's been a big push of late to increase our female cadet cohort. and that's across industry. Actually, it's not just in the cruise sectors. So there is competition there, and there is definitely employment opportunities there. And I wouldn't let age put you off. Obviously, as Dan said, there are challenges around that as well, because I suppose they kind of want to look at retention, and they want to see that officer staying at sea with them for a number of years, you know, so that is taken into consideration as well. But there is definitely opportunity there, yeah.
And just one other thing for preparing yourself mentally, I suppose, do be prepared to have the 21 or 22-year-old third officer or third engineer being your boss, and as a cadet they'll be, you know, ordering you and telling you what to do. So it just takes a little bit of adjustment of a mindset initially. So although you might be older, maybe more senior ashore, when it comes to on ship, there is a rank structure. So just be prepared to have a boss potentially half your age, but other than that, it'll be grand.
Next one there, would it be a problem for me applying to the course at 17? No, we've a number of students currently in the engineering side that are 17 as well, so that's no issue. How do you apply for sponsorship? Do companies come to the college, and what type of companies are you able to apply for? So maybe Nate.
Yeah, I can jump in there. So how do you apply for sponsorship? So I suppose just to kind of run through it, I suppose my primary role is to manage and maintain, implement, support the relationship between the companies and the college. I'm the kind of go-between. So I suppose once semester 1 is complete and you've completed what Dan and Donal mentioned earlier, this creativity, innovation and teamwork module, where you kind of hone your interview skills, you create your CV, you look at CV generation and cover letter generation. What we do and what I do then with the careers officers in tow we would set up workshops and interview prep and practice sessions where you would be allowed to kind of bring that to the fore. You're then given one-to-one interview practice sessions then thereafter, and as many of those as you'd like to avail of online, as I say, remotely, and both on site here. So how would you apply? So you're invited then once a shipping company application call is issued. That's usually done after we have scheduled the dedicated annual shipping company presentation week. So that's usually completed by the 3rd week of January. We invite all companies on site. Some companies, because of location, will do that remotely via Teams in our auditorium. And that allows the company to pitch to our students and tell them what their cadetship is all about, why they think that our students should come and work with this particular company. It's been excellent so far. I think it's really helped the students focus their applications, and I suppose you know, look at how their character could fit that particular ship type. So once the application call goes out, the CV cover letter is submitted to me directly. It's then collated and submitted electronically, password protected, the whole lot, to the company for review and consideration. And then they'll shortlist for interview. And that's when it gets interesting. So they'll shortlist quite a fair amount of students really to really kind of allow for all ranges of characters. We used to unfortunately be very restricted by psychometric assessments. That's now gone. Going on 2024, it's the first year in about 6-7 years, I think, where I haven't seen a psychometric assessment carried out, which is excellent. And I think it's harnessing sometimes a better set of results. That's my opinion, and I suppose I'll say no more beyond that. Once the shortlists are out, the interviews are complete, they'll tell us who they would like to offer a cadetship to. And then I will communicate that directly to the CFAs coordinators and directly to the students. Once the cadet accepts that offer, then they're then declared off the list for any further interview. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but again, that's the overall process wrapped up.
So thanks. So just Irina there, thanks to Irina, she just stuck in there as well that the vision is tested both with and without glasses contacts. You need to meet the criteria for your occupation. Okay. So thanks, Irina. Do many students drop out after the berth at sea or decide they don't like going to sea? So what we see on the engineering side, and Donal can talk about the deck side. On the engineering side, the students have 2 years in college. So generally we would see a bit of a dropout after first year. You know, people didn't think, you know, maybe they thought the course was going to be more hands-on and it's more theory-based, etc. So by the time they get to 3rd year, they've kind of fixed it in their mind that they're happy to go to sea. What we see as lecturers when they come back from sea are very focused students. They've been to sea for 9 months. They understand, I suppose, a lot of the teaching that we've been talking about. They understand about the lifestyle of the seafarer, etc. And when they come back, they're actually probably more laser focused to do better in their final exams and get their tickets and actually get back out into work. But Donal might have a different perspective with the deck guys going out a bit quicker.
Yeah, no, similar on deck, but as I said, the lifestyle at sea, that's the kind of the key takeaway there. like a life at sea isn't for everyone. It is different. You are going to be away from home. You're going to be working with all sorts of nationalities. It's quite intense. You'll work for 3 or 4 months at a time, 7 days a week. They're long days. But the other flip side of that is you get a lot of time off. So in the course of a year, once you're qualified, you might only work 7 months a year. You've 5, 6 months while you're still getting paid. So that's the good side of it. But it isn't for everyone. As much as you can research about it, you can talk to people about it, until you've been on board and tried it, it's difficult to know ultimately. So you can go about it well researched, well informed, but yeah, there is a bit of a dropout. I'm not sure what the exact figures are, but there definitely is once people go on board. Important thing to remember though is it's a really diverse industry. There's so many different types of ships. So if you get a cadetship on an oil tanker, you go on it, and look, worst case scenario, you really don't like it. You say, do you know what, this isn't for me. I was at sea for weeks and weeks. We didn't hardly got off the ship. I don't want to go to sea anymore. Stop. Get back in touch with the college. We can get you on a different type of ship. You could go working on a ferry. You could go working on a local research ship. You could go working on a passenger ship. They're all completely different types of ships. So don't just bail out at the first hurdle. So it isn't for everyone, but we'll work as hard as we can to try and find something that suits for you. And it's the same when you do qualify. There's all these different careers out there. Like I spent most of my time on oil tankers that suited my personality, my style. But it could have had a completely different career. If I just wanted to change it up, I could have gone working on passenger vessels instead. I could have gone working on tall ships and gone sailing around the place, all sorts of things. So there really is huge opportunities out there.
I'd have to agree there, Donald, as well. And actually, it was very interesting. Recently, actually, we had one of the companies contact us saying that the cadet hadn't enjoyed the first trip after the first 3 weeks, and he had said he would like to withdraw. So with quick intervention there, we were able to turn that one around. And interestingly, he didn't leave that company. It was more about looking at a different part of the fleet. Coming off an Arc 7 vessel and heading out to a different ship type. So it was saved and turned around. So as Donald has said, just speak up and look for help, and we can certainly help you there and save you on the course.
Well, we just have another question there from Daniel. Do many students progress to the Navy after graduating? So as we said, we have a partnership with the Navy in the NMCI. So actually the Navy people have their own recruitment process. So if you want to join the Navy, go on to military.ie, and there's a recruitment process either to go in as a rating or to go in as an officer through a cadetship. If you come through the cadetship side, you will come to us eventually either through marine engineering or nautical science, and we'll end up teaching you how to drive a ship or how to repair a ship. Some students will progress through their career, so they'll go through the merchant navy. You know, they'll work on oil tankers, they'll get their second engineers, their tickets or their master's ticket. And every so often the Navy do look to take in direct entry officers, and that is a route that some people will go as well. Okay, so there is a potential route into the Navy after graduating there as well. How much do annual fees cost? Thanks to Lillian there. She's after putting up a link on the chat. If anyone is interested in that, they can just click on the link and they'll find out about annual college fees. Will I have to void sponsorship if I want to go direct entry into the Navy? So will I have to avoid sponsorship if I want to go direct into well, the question is that the direct entry into the Navy has its own selection criteria. So you'd want to make sure that you've been selected to go into it, and you need to go in the direct entry route into the Navy. You have to have a certain qualification going into it. So you need more than an officer to watch. You have to have a minimum, I believe, of your second engineer's ticket.
So I suppose at this stage, if you're coming from school and want to go into the Navy, probably the direct route would be through the cadetship. We're probably confusing terms slightly. Direct entry is generally for people a little bit later in their career to step in from the kind of civilian world to step across into it. But the most direct route would be through their cadetship. I'd say that's run by them.
Is there much of a relationship with the college and the Navy? Yeah, there are partners in the college, so we work side by side with them. What is the percentage rate of people getting accepted to the college after the leaving cert?
You want me to take that?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I was trying to do some very quick maths there when I saw that coming in. It's impossible, I suppose, at this point of the year to say, but based on current first preference applicants, and the number of places, we're looking at about 50%. But that is based on first pref, and we still have change of mind, so that's very changeable throughout the year.
Okay, so that's 50% of the.
So based on the numbers
would
of
get
people
place.
applying with first preference, with NMCI as their first preference, about 50% will get a place as it stands today. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Which cruise lines do you work with, and how many students on average will be sponsored? So maybe Annette.
Yeah, I can quickly share the screen there just directly to that slide that'll answer that question if that's of any help, folks.
I'll stop. Okay.
Share screen. And you can just tell me there if that's coming up there now for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So these are the established training providers that we work with. You'll see on the left-hand side there that Chevron, LPG, our oil and chemical, and we've got Carnival Corporation, CP, formerly known as TK Gas, one of the world's largest independent carriers, gas carriers. We've got Princess Cruises here, long-standing relationship here with Holland American is our newest company that have just come on board with us in 2024. We've got Stena Line on the RoPac side, and we've got Shell on to the next slide there. So Shell manage vessels more so than own, so they manage in around the 6 oil and chemical with LPG product tankers as well. On to the next slide there, just let me know if that's coming up for you folks. Yeah. Again, that's an even spread there. So you've got Arklow Shipping, our local company here, again 53 managed vessels, 6 registered to Holland. So our cadets in the NMCI have access to upwards of about 47 ships there. Irish Ferries on the RoPac side, you've got V-Ships that are a crew management company or a ship management company, I should say, and we have access to berths with our Azamara Cruises. Also, we've got access to other tanker berths through that company here. Eastaway, one of the largest common carriers in the world, specialising in container carriers. And then we've got Commissioners of Irish Lights. There's a question that has come up in the chat. We can come to that in a minute. Commissioners of Irish Lights do not partake in sponsorship. They offer a sea time and sea phase only. And that's primarily on the Irish Lights vessel, the Granuaile. We also have offerings through the Marine Institute on some of our research vessels, more namely Tom Cream, that's specific to certain engineering and ETO cadets, not more so than the deck. So that's basically it.
Perfect, thanks, Ned. And that covers the next question there. Does the just see there, does the Marine Institute and Irish Lights partake in the sponsorship, the sponsor students? So you've touched on that there. How much in way of personal possessions do you end up being able to bring with you on a ship? Look, it's very dependent on the type of ship you're going to. If you're going to an oil tanker, if you're going to a cruise ship, etc., you know, you can't bring the kitchen sink with you, really, you know. But generally what we end up doing is prior to going to sea, you will get an information pack from Annette, and that will kind of give a guide as to what kind of clothes to bring, what kind of items to bring with you as well. So, you know, that you'll bring the essential items with you.
Just to jump in there, I remember the funny story, when I was starting out, we were told from the college you should bring 2 big suitcases and split your stuff evenly between them. God forbid if you lost one of your suitcases, you'd have half your stuff in the other one. So land up the gangway your first day, spot the new fella dragging these 2 giant suitcases up behind them. So quickly figured it out, like one normal size suitcase, and basically you need clothes for a week, because we've got washing machines, we've got dryers on board, so you're going to wash your stuff. Okay, I was oil tanker, so I wasn't going to disco every night. Maybe on a cruise ship, you might be doing a little bit differently. So you kind of 1 or 2 decent, nice outfits for going ashore or something like that, and after that, it's kind of working clothes, maybe a bit of gear for the gym or something like that. And thankfully now everyone's got Kindles and iPads, so you don't need to be bringing books or cassettes, VHSs, if anyone remembers them. So yeah, not too much. Basically pack for a week or 10 days.
Thanks, Donald. What type of ships do ETOs work on? Look, they're on nearly everything, because everything has gone so electronic at the moment, the need for satellite communications, etc. So their role has really expanded in the last number of years. So you can find an ETO nearly on every vessel out there. Thanks there to Lillian, you've answered there. I'm coming to college via PLC in engineering. Will I still have to wait till August to find out if I have a place? So PLC applications will receive their offer in early August, round 0. This is based on the CAO receiving the results from QQI in mid to late July. Okay, thanks, Lillian. Our percentage percentages of mature students and percentage. Also, maybe that's to do with Lillian there. What's the percentage of mature students?
I'm just looking at our numbers of mature applicants as it stands at the moment. Now, you guys, mature students are assessed at departmental level, so it would depend on your assessments. But I would say we're looking probably at 13% of mature applicants currently getting a place pending positive assessments.
Yeah, so as we said, there is an assessment that takes place in the college, so we will assess mature applicants' applications to see if they're suitable. So that's what happens there. Marine engineering is generally perceived as a physical job with intense hard labor. Is this entirely true? I would say yes.
Dan is an engineer.
It's very dependent, and what I mean by that, it depends on the type of ship you're on. Because if you're on steamships with steam turbines, etc., or if you're on motor ships, etc., so there's two different types of machinery. One would be quieter and less work. It depends on where the ship is trading, because obviously if you're in the Middle East, you know, you're having engine room temperatures of 40, 50 degrees. So the environment you're working in is difficult. Is the work difficult? Yes, it is. But I mean, it's like any job, you know, it is certainly thoroughly enjoying. It's an enjoying and fulfilling job as well. But it's very difficult to answer that, because it's very dependent on the type of ship you're working on, and where you're trading as well. Is it possible to go straight to second year in marine engineering if you've completed a general engineering in another university? The answer to that is generally no. You'll end up doing an RPL process. What you'll find is through the RPL process, we will assess the subjects that you've done. And if they meet our learning outcomes on the engineering course, you may not have to do those modules. However, our modules are very specific to the marine environment, and generally a lot of general engineering courses don't meet our learning outcomes, so you'll probably end up having to do additional modules. Okay. Advanced entry would recommend contacting the RPL. So thanks, Irene, you've said that. How does the exemption from taxes work for salaries? Very quickly, you get yourself a good accountant, is the main advice we would give you. Generally, what happens is if you're outside of the country for a certain number of days every year, you're deemed to be non-resident in the country, and therefore you don't have to pay tax. But as I said, you'll get yourself a very good accountant, and he'll tell you what you need to do.
And basically, it's on average, they look at it over 2 years, it's about 4.5 months on average you can be in the country. So you have to be out for 8.5. It doesn't matter where you are, just not here. So it means when you come home from your trip at sea, you might take a week's holiday somewhere each trip you're home, and that'll usually get you over the edge if you're doing longer trips. So pay €1,000, go on a holiday and get 10 grand off your tax bill. It's kind of how it works, but it is very much up to you to manage that. It's nothing we're involved with, it's your personal tax circumstances. Just when we scooted over there, then would you recommend if a person's unsuccessful in getting course directly through the college to get it through the Navy instead? I'd say they're quite different careers, the Navy and what we do. So we're merchant Navy, as Dan would have said before. That's civilian cargo ships, so international, working on all sorts of ships. Very different discipline structure as well. So really you have to decide which one is for you. If you're set on being in the Navy, go talk to the Navy. If you want a career at sea generally, going to the Navy probably isn't going to scratch that itch. It's quite a different organization. So I'd say try and figure it out which one you'd like, and go directly.
And the Navy will still look for certain educational requirements from you to get accepted on the course also. So just be wary of that. What are the rough starting salaries for ETO and engineering? Annette, you might have, I think you were kind of talking about 38 to 44 grand or something like that is what you were saying.
Exactly, yeah. Electrotechnical officers post-qualification tend to be paid slightly higher, and that's down to supply and demand. But yeah, generally between the 20, starting out really, you know, post-qualification, post-OOW, you could be on between 28,000 or 32, but then quite rapidly moving up then up between 38 to 44. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. How standard are gyms at sea? Very standard nowadays. There's generally decent gym equipment, etc. on board for physical and mental health. So it's pretty standard stuff. What time do classes usually start each day? Generally 9 o'clock. They may start a little bit later depending on the timetabling situation or what you're doing, but generally 9 o'clock. Would a mature student have to apply by now?
I was just answering that.
Okay.
We accept late mature applications up to the 1st of May, and that goes for all CAO applications. We can't accept new applications after the 1st of May, but we will accept. Most colleges don't accept late mature applications, but we do. So anyone who hasn't made a CAO application yet, I would be advising you get on it and get it done before the 1st of May. And anyone who is here who's thinking of maybe adding one of the 3 courses, that you'll be able to do that through change of mind if you already have a CAO number from the 7th of May. Lots of deadlines in May.
Thanks, Lillian. When is the marine engineering course starting? So you've answered that there as well.
We don't have a leaving cert
results
results date.
Okay.
So as soon as I wish I had one. I can't even plan my own summer. So once we have that, we will be letting first years know what date they'll be starting.
It's September-ish.
It will be, I would think, yeah, mid-September. It won't, yeah. Going on last year's dates, which we're predicting the Department of Education will go with similar to last year. So we'd probably be looking maybe at the 16th, and potentially depending, it could be the week later, but don't quote me on that.
Do you get paid for being a cadet in engineering if you're sponsored, and if so, how much usually?
Yeah, so just to answer that, yeah, again, to answer that correctly, it would depend on what company you were with. Obviously, they would vary in range, whether you're cruise and or tanker. But to give an average on the cruise side, you could be looking at across a 15-month period, maybe £13,000 sterling, anywhere up to maybe €18,000, which is a nice wage when you're paying college fees and nice bit of pocket money there. And then again, on the engine side, again, it wouldn't really vary too much beyond that. Again, probably about £13,000 up to maybe €18,000 across the sea phase. Okay.
And we've a question from Jim here. What are the exams like in college, and how are the pass rates for engineering course? So look from they're fine, the exams. But look, I mean, it's like any college, you know, we will go through the material, we will prepare students for exams. I mean, a lot of it is up to the students themselves. They're all over 18 years of age. We have an expectation that people can, you know, do a bit of study themselves and work away. The pass rates are generally good, but with that being said, we do have people that will actually, you know, that will struggle to get through the summer exams. There's resets again in August for your repeats. So I suppose that's a difficult question to answer. Look, we will always have people that will struggle to pass the course. But a lot of it is, as I said earlier, you know, it's a hill that can be climbed. There's an awful lot of additional supports through main campus, etc. Additional classes, tutorial classes to get people through the exams as well. If for some reason something went wrong in first year, would you be possible to repeat? Yeah, is the question, or is the answer to that easily? Yeah, you just, again, you talk to the first year coordinators, you tell them what's going on, you know, and this is a routine thing for us, you know, there's no problem with that. So guys, that's it. That's the end of our questions. As I said at the start there, if anyone has any other questions, look, you can email us in and we'll get back to you. There's an awful lot of information and links that have been put up in the chat. I know Irene has a quick PowerPoint. You might be able to email that out to you maybe tomorrow, as well with a couple of the answers that we've got here tonight, that people can just get back onto the links and go from there. So just from our point of view, I'd like to say thanks very much for everyone who attended tonight and listened in. And we hope to see you obviously in September on either the engineering or the ETO or the Nautical Science course. And I'd obviously like to thank my colleagues for coming on here tonight as well, for giving their expertise and helping with answering the questions. So good night and thanks very much.